everybody, it's Dr. Joe, and the folks at Simien sent me their Simien elbow compression sleeve with dual gel pads to help relieve tennis elbow and golfer's elbow. So let's talk about it.
Disclaimer alert, disclaimer alert.
So you might have seen in some of my past videos about tennis elbow and golfer's elbow that you can use a brace that actually goes around the elbow and puts pressure on those tendons to help relieve the pain. So this is kind of a next step to that. A lot of times people might really like the brace, but they might find it too bulky, or they might find that it just is a little bit too intense for them or too much pressure. And so Simien came out with a sleeve alternative, which is a really neat way to do it, because what I really like about this is the gel pads are pre-installed. So what that does is when you put on the sleeve and you get it on those tender points or those pressure points on there, it's going to stay in place and it's not going to slide around. And so you can see on the inside that there's actually two here, one for the tennis elbow side and one for the golfer's elbow side. And the reason I like that is because a lot of times if you're having one of the pain, either the tennis elbow, which is the lateral epicondylitis, or the golfer's elbow, which is that medial epicondylitis, sometimes it hurts all around. So having both sides and having a sleeve like this does a really good job of just getting those pressure points to help relieve the pain. And so a lot of times when people have used the brace in the past, it works great. But like I said, some people think maybe it's just a little bit too intense, a little bit too much pressure. Even people like weightlifters, what they had given feedback on was when they're lifting weights, it ends up kind of getting too tight just because it's that single brace all the way around. And so they've really found that the sleeves work very, very well for them. And so what's really neat about the sleeve is you can just slide it on, and then once you get it into the right position, and it comes in different sizes, you can see the one I have on is a medium, but if you've got tennis elbow or if you've got that golfer's elbow, you're really gonna know exactly where those tender spots are. So your extensor, those wrist extensor muscles come on that outside all the way up to the elbow here. So it's that lateral side of the elbow, or that lateral epicondylitis. And usually right on the muscle belly there is where it's really tender. And just a general rule, if you go to the elbow where that epicondyle is, if you put two fingers or your thumb, that space in between, then usually the tender spot's right below that. And so once you get that there, the way the sleeve works is then it's pretty automatic that then the inside one, or that medial side for the golfer's elbow, is going to be in the right spot too. So you might have to adjust it just a little bit, but as you can see, once you get it on, it stays in place and doesn't slide down and it doesn't move around, and it just stays in one spot. And so this is really neat, especially for active people. If you're continuing to play tennis, or you're continuing to play golf, or even like I talked about, if you're lifting, doing some weightlifting and stuff, this is nice because it doesn't get in the way. It's not super bulky. It's really close to the arm. So it's not that bulkiness. So even people like waiters have said that they appreciate the sleeve, because if they've got their long sleeve shirts and sometimes they're tight, this fits underneath very nicely, and it doesn't catch on to the shirt and it doesn't slide around because it's catching on. So you can see, everything's nice and close, and it's designed to be nice and snug because it's a compression sleeve also with those gel pads. So you can see that there. That's really nice. And again, I want to show you on the other side, that's where those gel pads are. So it gives you a nice amount of pressure on those tender points or those sensitive areas, but not so much where if you're already really, really hurting, that sometimes maybe too much of that pressure is just too much for you. This is a nice alternative. And so you can see here that it really does a good job of just staying in place and being in the right spot. And so with the sleeve, a lot of times if you're still early on in your injury, if you're going to do some stretches and exercises with it, you can go ahead and leave the sleeve on. But as you start getting stronger and as it starts getting a little bit better, you want to do your stretches and exercises without the sleeve on. But in the beginning, you can have it on. And a couple of my favorite stretches for tennis elbow and golfer's elbow is just stretching those muscles and those tendons out. So the extensors on the outside here are the ones that pull your wrist up. So if you want to stretch it, you'd actually then go in the opposite direction. So if I want to stretch the outside here, I'm going to put my arm straight out and keep the elbow kind of straight and locked out, and then just gently push my hand down, and I should feel that stretch through the top there. And you might feel it a lot more on that gel pad spot right there, and so you know you're getting the right spot. If this isn't really stretching a whole lot, if you're not getting a whole lot of stretch, you can curl in your fingers and get even more of a stretch. Some people even like to turn a little bit and stretch this way, or you can even turn a little bit and stretch that way as well. So sometimes you might want to try both ways, because that's going to really, one person might get more of a stretch this way, one person might get a little more stretch that way. So you definitely want to try it. And then if you want to do for the golfer's elbow, stretch those flexors out, the wrist flexors. So those are the ones that pull it down. You'd go in the opposite direction. So you'd kind of make that stop sign motion. And then if your fingers are curled, you're not going to get quite as much of a stretch, but you'll feel it down there. So if you're still in that early phase, you're going to probably feel it right there where the pad is on the other side. And if you want more, then open up your hand, and then you can pull on your fingers to get more of a stretch. So you'd hold those stretches for about 30 seconds, doing 3. You can alternate back and forth, because even if you just have tennis elbow, you probably want to go both ways. And then the same thing with the golfer's elbow. You still want to stretch it in both directions, even if you just have one or the other. But again, I really like the sleeve because it has both there, because a lot of times if you're having pain for one of those, the whole elbow is really gonna be sore and tender. So if you're interested in purchasing the elbow sleeve, make sure and click on the link up there, and don't forget to subscribe by clicking down there. And remember, be safe, have fun, and I hope you feel better soon.